What's up everyone, James here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 things that I've learnt about saltwater fish. So continuing on from this few sort of series that I've been doing about sort of the things that I've learnt in fish keeping, this one is all about the different things that I've experienced and learnt and observed in the time that I've been keeping marine fish. And yeah, I just thought I'd share some of those with you. Now before we get started, I just wondered if you could hit the subscribe button on the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos that I do, and also if you could make sure you got that bell notification switched on so you don't miss out on any videos that I have coming in the future. Alright, let's get to it. Number 5. Now this one is always going to stir up a bit of controversy with people when I discuss this topic, but I think that from my experience, the thing that is so misleading is the information given about keeping marine fish and the kind of equipment that you should have to have a saltwater tank. Now, I'm not saying that those items aren't essential, and they of course have their benefits to any fish or corals or whatever you're keeping in your saltwater aquarium, and obviously the more money you spend or the higher tech equipment that you get, the better results that you're going to have. But as I've always said before, when you're starting out or when you want to dip your toes in, I don't personally feel that you need a lot of this equipment. So that's probably the thing that I picked up very early on, although I was very skeptical about actually taking the plunge because I was questioning all this tech, but there was not a lot of videos or people actually backing up this sort of theory. And I think a lot of it came down to people didn't want to start a bit of a stir on the conversation. And as I've observed many times before, I think that people aren't talking enough in this hobby, and we should be sharing our experiences. So that is one thing that I've definitely learned, is that you don't need all the equipment and you can do it on a budget. So yeah. Number 4, it's not actually that different to a freshwater fish or keeping cold water fish. Essentially, if you're going down sort of the bare minimum, again, this obviously subjects to the theory that you have not all the tech and all the expensive gear, but if you're keeping it sort of very basic or primitive or whatever you want to call it, then in my view, I haven't seen that much difference in keeping freshwater fish to marine fish. The only thing obviously that's different is that you're adding salt to your water, and with that comes a bit of a learning curve. I've done a video on that actually, so if you want to learn more about how to mix salt water and what salinity is and all of that sort of stuff, then I'll leave a link up in this corner and in the description so you can check that out more. But essentially, you can have well, I've got a freshwater filter, a freshwater, well, I had originally a freshwater light, I've got a freshwater heater. Yeah, so there's not really too much that's dissimilar to you know, what you would normally keep with any other tank. It is primarily, if you're going back to the basics, probably just the salt water that's different really. So number 3, yeah, expensive equipment. So to run a saltwater aquarium, you don't have to have things like protein skimmers or refugiums or, you know, big huge sumps or anything like that to get started, especially at the beginning. I mean, if you want to go the hardcore route later on, then by all means knock yourself out with all the equipment and the expensive gear. But as I've said before, you know, when starting out, you can use basic equipment. Now, like I said, I've used normal filters before. I've got an All Pond Solutions hang on the back filter on this Nano Reef aquarium. And before I got this blue Reef light, or it's just an ultraviolet, that's the only difference between that and a planted light. I was using one of these Nicrew classic LED lights. Now that's just a blue and white light, and that served its purpose just right, because again, if you're growing corals, then you will need an ultraviolet light or something that emits a lot stronger light just to sort of help with the coral's growth and stuff. But you know, essentially you can just use a normal light if you're keeping, say, a fish only tank where you just got fish in it, or shrimps or snails or crabs or whatever. That's not coral. you don't really need to have a reef light. Now, also other things that I found very confusing at the beginning, and again quickly realized, is that you don't have to use like live sand. Essentially live sand is just sand with beneficial bacteria in it to help kickstart that nitrogen cycle right at the beginning, but you can just use normal sand. Some people use crushed coral with their sand, and that again goes hand in hand with the live sand that you see sort of advertised. But like I said, you can use normal sand. Again, bottle of beneficial bacteria, that will kickstart the nitrogen cycle just fine. Again, you know, normal tank. The only thing that I'd say you need is, like I said before, an ultraviolet light if you're growing coral, and you'll probably need some live rock as well in there, or dry rock or synthetic rock. It doesn't matter, but you don't need to buy the really expensive stuff, not at the beginning, and not if you're just trying to sort of get used to how things work. Again, goes back to that beginner thing where do your research. It's again very mixed. I found a couple of good channels across YouTube and other social media platforms. Again, I've done a lot of research online, spoke to some sort of people that were experiencing keeping reef aquariums, and just got a general feel from a lot of people on how to start. And still, I was very confused when I began. So I think, you know, just research and you know, that's all I can say really on the matter. Number 2. You don't have to use RO water. Now, this threw me so badly off when I first started looking into keeping a reef tank, and I must admit it really put me off as well. RO water can be very expensive, very tedious to, you know, to set up and actually get the water, or if you go and buy it somewhere, then, you know, there could be a price to it. It could be you know, expensive as well. So there's just a lot of factors to it. I'm not saying it's a wrong way of doing it at all. I mean, if you're gonna do a reef aquarium, you know, the best way possible probably to get the best performance from your corals and stuff, then maybe using this kind of water is beneficial. But there's nothing stopping you from using tap water. Now, I know this will really upset people when I say that, but you know, a lot of water will always, well, any water that comes out of a pipe is going to have copper in it, and then now that's the fundamental thing. What people say is why you shouldn't use it in a reef tank is because copper is quite damaging to you know, corals. It can be damaging to shrimp and things like that. So you could argue that, you know, that's you know, a negative to use in tap water. But again, my argument always is like, why spend all the money straight away and have like a negative impact on you, when if you start with things that are, you know, sort of reasonably priced, or, you know, help you gain success quicker, then you can move on to the more advanced stuff later on. So it's more about just making sure that you've got the right information there. Now, again, this is only my view, so, you know, take it as you will, but in my personal view, I've had really good success with keeping a reef aquarium using tap water. I do use RO water sometimes as you know, to try and help get the water hardness level down, but I must admit, not every time. So, you know, my corals are growing and my fish seem happy. Now, again, this could all be subjectable, but yeah, in my view, I'm getting decent results, and I can't see why, you know, again, even if you've got soft water in your area, I can't see why you can't use that water to start with. And I feel that, like, it's just the reefing world is just very complicated, and I think that it comes attached to a big stigma of that you have to have everything and the most expensive to get yourself going, and in my view, I don't believe that to be the case. So again, just my personal thoughts, opinions, perspective, but yeah, take it as you will. And the number one thing that I've learned about keeping saltwater fish or a marine aquarium is patience. Now, that should be the fundamental thing with anything you do with related to fish keeping and stuff. You shouldn't try and go for everything straight away, as in, like, for a planted aquarium, for example, you shouldn't pump your aquarium full of all the plants and then have it all set out ready to go, because you'll get bored of it in a couple of months. And I think that goes the same with, you know, the reef aquarium world or salt water and stuff. There's an element to watching your aquarium and your ecosystem build, but at the same time as well, a reef tank or a marine aquarium takes a little bit longer to mature, and you will tend to, if you rush the process, you will come into issues with cyanobacteria or algae blooms, just like you would with any other aquarium, but that's not aesthetically pleasing in a lot of people's minds. Now, it doesn't bother me. I like the natural look, but you know, there is that element to it as well. And also the fish and, you know, other inverts and corals and stuff are very expensive in the saltwater side. So, you know, there's an argument that you should probably take a lot more time with it than, you know, you should rush it, because if they die, then that's a lot more money wasted. Now, that should be the case with, again, any aquarium that you keep. It doesn't matter what you keep in, but that is just food for thought there, you know, in the sense that, like I said, they're very expensive to keep. So I think that probably is the one thing that I've learnt, is patience. And also, like I said, that goes with doing your research, not impulse buying when you're in the shops, because you could come into a lot of issues there. And yeah, just enjoy it grow, and enjoy it mature. I think that's the best thing that I've learned. And you know, it's not happened every day for me. I sometimes go into shops still and I get that real bad urge to just buy a fish because I've seen it and it looks really nice. But nowadays I just go, nope, let me go home, let me sit on it, sleep on it, have a look online, you know, check the information, and then if I still want it after a few days, wait till my paydays come around or whatever, and then go out and buy it. And I think that works better for me, and it's made me learn to enjoy, you know, the hobby better, because there's something to look forward to in the future as well. So you're not just rushing it all straight away and getting the end result, because to be fair, that's quite boring and will put you off, you know, wanting to do, well, you'll just always want to do something more, I think. So yeah, just learning that patience to enjoy it also helps. So there it is. They're the 5 things that I've learned keeping saltwater fish. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. You probably disagree with a lot of the things that I said. If you do, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you give it a like. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any videos that I've got coming up. And again, if you could, check out the links below for my Patreon account if you want to help support the channel, or my other social media feeds, including my podcast that you might want to check out as well. They're all down below for you to enjoy. My final thoughts are really, saltwater, marine aquariums, whatever you want to call them, is such a fantastic side of the hobby to get into. It's very daunting when you start because, like I said, the information is not that clear. But once you take the plunge, you'll realize that things aren't that dissimilar to what you were used to with other parts of the hobby. And yeah, there's just another amazing, you know, ecosystem to enjoy. So it's definitely worth checking out, and yeah, and enjoying. Why not? So until next time, you stay safe.